Come on! What can I say about action shooter Gungrave G.O.R.E that hasn't already been said about the Hindenburg disaster of 1937, Drake of the 99 Dragons of 2003, or how your mother looks without makeup first thing in the morning every day? Happy whatever day you're watching this, everybody. This is the Broken Controller Club, and I go by Grand Poobah Ed. Links to merch, donations, and all that fun stuff are in the description. Today's waste of 12 hours I'll never get back that I'd have rather spent being drawn and quartered is a piece of crap called Gungrave G.O.R.E. It's one of the worst new games I've played all year. It's a sequel to Gungrave and Gungrave Overdose, some PS2-era action shooters that I barely knew of. You play as this undead hitman formerly known as Brandon when he was alive, but got capped and brought back to life and now goes by Grave. And he carries around dual pistols and what's referred to as a coffin. But unless this guy's 10 or 12 feet tall, the only thing fitting in that coffin is someone who was previously in the Lollipop Guild. The game lets you watch this not very brief video about Gungrave's story to catch you up, but the gist of it is that he and his team fight bad guys to make the world safe for puppies and get rid of some drug called seed that can turn people into monsters. It's like a crappier version of the T-virus. Some organization called Raven Clan is responsible for seed being all over the world, and Grave infiltrates this city called Los Angeles, Scumland, and that sends him all over Southeast Asia tracking down the source. Spoiler alert, the source are these four bosses here who look like rejects from an old Metal Gear Solid game, and their leader is a guy named, wait for it, Who Knows Who? That's his actual name. Brilliant. So this game had such diminishing returns that I started out pretty optimistic in level 1, and then by the time I finished the last boss fight in level 31, I was ready to pull my eyeballs out of my face like Sam Neill in Event Horizon. Like, I seriously hated this game more with each hour that I put into it. So in order to organize my thoughts in a way that won't make me stroke out, I'm going to go over what I liked before I cover what I didn't like, because what I like is a really short list. Let's get sweaty. The graphics in this are a little all over the place, but overall I didn't dislike them. There's lots of details in each level, with Hong Kong being a standout because of all the neon and stuff, and I'm a sucker for neon. I won't say the levels don't all take place in generic locations, but what's here was at least fun to look at. I guess this sounds kind of backhanded, but I'm trying to be nice, so get off my ass. Anyway, the cinematics are the best looking parts of the game. Watching Grave and later on Bungie or Boonji, whatever his name is, fight and take out enemies and bosses is pretty entertaining, and I wish more of the game looked like this. You can go in the options and choose between performance mode and quality mode. Quality mode has ray tracing and is locked at 30 frames per second, performance is at 60. I switched between both and have them side by side here, and other than the frame rate change, I couldn't tell the difference, and I did this at a few different points in the game just to see if it was me. The non-cinematic cutscenes are a little weird looking though, like the characters are kind of rubbery looking and their skin is really overly textured. The action, to its credit, is really simple, and at times it could be really fun to murder everything in sight. Simple does not mean easy, which I'll get to later, but I do like that there were no puzzles or searching for keys or any crap like that. It was really straightforward. Now that I think of it, it's weird that none of the bad guys locked any doors to keep this freak out, but that ain't my problem. Next up are attacks called demolition shots, which are these special attacks that you spend points gained by shooting enemies to use. These typically use Grave's coffin and turn it into swords or a rocket launcher, a giant laser, that sort of thing. They're pretty fun to watch, and that goofy skeleton in the corner of the screen hoots and hollers whenever Grave lets one of these things rip. There are lots available that you can buy in the lab between levels, so you're encouraged to experiment with what you like. There are a couple sections in the game where you also play as two side characters, and while those levels were short, the two characters were a nice change of pace, and I wanted to see more of that. One is this guy Bungie, who looks like he's trying to be one of the Gallagher brothers, Oasis, not the watermelon smashing guys, but plays like a faster version of Grave, and this other chick named Quartz who can freeze enemies and use martial arts. And that is officially everything that I liked in the game. So let's find out what I didn't like, shall we? So to begin with, each level starts by telling you to kick their ass, which should be asses, because there's multiple enemies, but public school quality grammar is the least of this game's problems. I said earlier that the gameplay is simple, but it somehow still has a ton of problems. Like, this should have been called Move Forward and Shoot the game, because that's all you do. It's extremely repetitive, and you're going to do the same thing in level 1 throughout the rest of the game. You basically just walk into a corridor, a ton of guys show up and shoot at you, and you shoot them all. Then you go to the next one. Sometimes the game gets crazy and you'll get so overcrowded with enemies that you'll have to actually walk backward as you're shooting them, then walk forward again. Insanity. This is the best way for me to describe it. If you've played Devil May Cry, this is like if you play as Dante, but you run at a third of his speed, anywhere from 20 to 50 guys show up in a room, and you can only shoot them with your pistols. You remember how weak those things are? That's what this game is. The game's description talks about stylish action, but you're seriously just walking and shooting. Like I've seen where they refer to the game as a gory ballet of bullets, but there is no finesse in anything this guy does. Look at him. He looks like someone dressed up Lurch from the Addams Family to go to a Motorhead concert. The weapons also feel severely underpowered. Between the pea shooter pistols and the coffin, which is used as a melee attack, is the same thing as me smacking you in the face with a wet sock. By the way, the sock is wet because the new cat peed on it. Sorry. You can buy new melee attacks, but have fun using them because they're about 50-50 on whether they're even going to connect with an enemy for reasons I can't explain. Or in the case of one attack, you're supposed to press Y while in midair to trigger this shooting attack move, but it never ever did anything, no matter how many different ways I tried. It's like someone forgot to program the button. There's no auto fire in this, so just like with Drake of the 99 Dragons, which you should totally watch my review of if you haven't already, you're just constantly hitting the right trigger while walking forward. Now to be fair, after hitting the trigger 4 times in a row, you can hold the trigger down to initiate something called hyper mode, which he'll fire automatically while doing some spinny move that gets him hit by other bullets more often. So don't do that, because it's stupid. You can also hold down the trigger right away to charge up a shot, but you can only do that after you've fired the gun one time. Otherwise, it won't let you. So if you think you can sneak a charge in before a fight starts, you're going to have to fire the guns first, then do it. So to recap, you mash the trigger constantly unless you want to charge a shot. Then you hold the trigger down on the second shot, or if you want to fire automatically but at a slower rate, you'll hold the button down after the 4th shot. Who designed this crap? You also have your demolition shots that I mentioned, though depending on what you buy in the lab, you'll either get something cool and useful or something that just won't work. For example, I bought this one attack where Grave pulls out the coffin and turns it into this giant laser that he uses to blast enemies, and it's pretty cool looking, admittedly. But I'd aim it into a crowd of enemies, and it would fire through all of them without actually causing any damage. Another one fired a machine gun out of the coffin, but there is no target reticle to help you aim it, so I could hardly hit anything, and when I did, it was so weak that it wasn't even worth using. Again, stupid and useless. As I said earlier, you get swarmed by enemies, and there doesn't even seem to be any sort of pattern or plan in how they're at it. There isn't much variety through the whole game, and you'll just fight reskinned enemies once the locations change. I did get a good laugh that the thugs in the opening cinematic that all get murdered are the exact same thugs in one of the later cinematics. Anyway, all this chaos could actually be fun if it weren't for a few enemies needing to be dealt with in specific ways. For example, guys with rocket launchers will need their rockets reflected back at them with your coffin. Of course, you'll have to stand still and hit the melee button to reflect them, or else you'll just eat rockets even if you swung your coffin in any other way in time. Because if you are moving while you tried hitting melee, you didn't do it their specific way and it won't reflect. Because it's stupid crap, and I hate this Sorry, I'm good now. Anyway, there's also snipers who will cut your shields down by half in one hit. There's guys who throw smoke that turns off your ability to lock onto enemies for some reason. There are mutants who lunge at you, and there's also my personal favorite, the shield bad guys. These guys have shields that can only be broken by melee attacks or your charge shot. They're almost always paired up with the guy who looks like he's from Daft Punk, and he'll hit you with a shotgun, and that will interrupt all of your attacks. So you try to get in close to hit the guy's shield and break it. Shotgun guy will shoot you and you'll get knocked back and have to try again or kill the shotgun guy first. All of this added together means that there's no improvisation in how you're fighting, and it often feels like you're playing rock, paper, scissors. There are also huge difficulty spikes in this, so by level 6, and remember, there are 31 levels of this crap, the game throws everything at you. You're trying to break shields off of a half dozen guys at once, while reflecting rockets, and in between those you're shooting guys with miniguns and shotguns and flamethrowers, and they're all respawning while you do it again. Oh, and by the way, shooting just once will keep your weapons drawn for about 1 to 2 seconds, further restricting your movement and keeping you from doing what little running Grave is capable of. Are we having fun yet? There's also this train level where enemies swarm you as you're trying to jump off the cars before you smash into an overpass. I don't know how many times I died like Wile E. Coyote there. So I've pointed out all of these weapons Grave has, but I haven't really mentioned what other moves he's got. For starters, he's got a grappling hook that can pull enemies toward him, or he can pull himself to their location. If an enemy is stunned, you can perform a kill attack that'll add to your score and also replenish your shields a little bit. You'll be getting shot while this happens though, so you won't notice the shield coming back because it'll be gone all over again a second later. Unfortunately, you'll need a clear shot to get the grappling hook to your target, or else you'll just pull some poor asshole over to you to use as a human shield. The upside to this is that if you keep him alive long enough, that will help replenish your shields over time, at least until he gets shot up enough to turn into ground beef. Also, with the human shield, you're only firing one weapon, so most of the time it wasn't really worth it. Now let's see, what else haven't I mentioned? Oh, there's a jump button that gets used for one platforming section in the last third of the game, and that's it. I would have loved a 180-degree turn button instead, so I could actually see who's shooting me in the back. You also can't target enemies really high above you unless you back up, because for some reason your target reticle won't go as high as the camera can. You know what happens when you try to shoot at someone from farther and farther away? You can't hit them that easily, can you? Now, as I said earlier, the levels look good, but the first 10 or so are a huge slog to get through. It's corridor after corridor and everything looks the same. Hitting a level with a difficulty spike will require you to go back to a previous level to beat a few times to score enough points to purchase more upgrades at the lab. So you're going to be stuck going through levels you didn't really like more than once. But the alternative is beating your head against a wall trying to beat a level that is next to impossible because you're just not powerful enough to get through it. So that exhaustive list is everything that I have to report on Gungrave G.O.R.E. I hated this game by the end of it, and if I had it to do all over again, I would have added it to my upcoming Bad Game Summer 2023. They somehow screwed up shooting tons of guys with really bad gameplay, attacks that don't work correctly, and you're doing the exact same thing over and over again for over 30 levels spanning around 12 hours. If you hate yourself and you want to experience the suck firsthand, it's on Xbox Game Pass as of this review being published, but don't say I didn't warn you. That's all I've got for this review. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you at the next one, which will hopefully be better. Congratulations! You're one of an elite few to make it to the end of the video. Reward yourself by hitting the round subscribe button in the middle, and then check out the other goodies I've got and the links next to it.